Thank you so much for visiting us and willing to share with us. So maybe we can start with the casual question, like, is it your first time visiting Korea or even Asia, and what's your impression?
Yeah, first to hear I'm coming to Korea was a surprise because I never imagined coming to Asia. It has not been a very serious destination for refugee advocacy platforms and conferences, and I've never had fellow refugees coming to Asia for such a purpose. So I also kind of said maybe there is a reason for me to come here, maybe because of my experience or something. So I was excited to be here and to see the beauty of Korea as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So I know you've been very active in various issues, but what do you prefer? How can we introduce you, like climate refugee or climate activist or youth activist? Like, how would you want to introduce yourself?
In general, I think it's specifically I introduce myself depending on event I'm attending, but I think I'm mainly an advocate for all the human rights, but more concentration to environmental issues, the climate issues, education issues, and aspect of peace. So these are three things that I introduce myself with also, but in the context of climate, when I speak about climate change, mostly, I introduce them as climate activists. Yeah,
that's really interesting. So I met you on Tuesday at the conference organized by Korean Human Rights Commission, and I heard your story of fleeing your country for 3 times. So we have read about the situation in South Sudan, and we've seen refugees from South Sudan as well. But can you explain briefly, like, why you had to leave your country for 3 times?
Yeah, this is whole lot of reflection. Sometimes when a refugee talks about their story, it can be two-way effect. Can be a memory of the bad experience in the past, but also can be the story of resilience and showing how far you've come. It looks horrible. Talking about the first time fleeing, that when I was very young, and I had no idea what was going on because of this 5 years. It appeared like a visit, like my parents are visiting places with me, so I didn't know much. Then second time I knew, and it was severe. That was strictly, everything was still connected, that it was conflict and climate change. But for the third time, that was when I was already 20 years of age, and I started opening my mind to understanding clearly what caused all this, what caused people to move to new country, what caused us to move in large number like this, what's really going on. So when I accessed university education and then my experience in the camp, seeing the reality of changes first and now, because back in South Sudan, some of these changes takes time. But when it mixes with conflict, it can be very drastic. That anyone can notice as long as you're in the community. So during the camp, the third time fleeing to Uganda now, and when I settled in the camp for almost a year, I started seeing a drastic change. And then that was environment first, but then conflict, because the peaceful host community that hosted us very peacefully, provided land for the government to put us in, started turning violent against refugees. So then you ask yourself, what is the cause of this? Because of deforestation, overuse of natural resources, cutting down trees, which is therefore increasing droughts, and therefore crops are no longer yielding. So all this was genuine reason that we could not say host communities were bad to feel sad about our action as refugees. But also as refugees, we could not feel that we are wrong to survive. Because if you're cutting down trees so you can cook food. It is only the alternatives means of survival to get available to get other means to meet your basic need. We all know the UN and all the humanitarian emergency response program last for maximum of 9 months. So if some refugees or people stay in a place for over 2 years, so that means the rest of them very many months, are being spent on struggling. So after emergency, humanitarians expect refugees to, devise alternative means to supplement their food. And they don't tell you what to do, you just have to find ways. So now as people who grow up depending on nature from birth, humankind, when you wake up in the morning and you see something, the immediate source of your food is from environment. Culturally, we are known for hunting. You go and hunt animal, or you go and pluck fruits from the bush. And then secondly, you have to use fire to cook food, and you have to cut trees. We don't have this technology in Africa where we use electricity, there in our country. So then, these changes in the settlement that sparked violence I started then reflecting back home in South Sudan, what happened that made us to flee conflict like this. And I started comparing this current low crop productivity that I see in the settlement, if it really also happened in South Sudan, back my home. And I started reflecting because I was already mature. And I started seeing that, yes, environment is everywhere. I mean, climate change has been the driver of this thing. Because how our land became first time unproductive from South Sudan was because community that keep animals migrated from their place to place where farming takes place. And animals, when animal moves on a piece of land for long, the land does not become productive anymore for cultivation. And then conflict between farmers and cattle keepers, because also cattle destroys crops. So that sparked conflict. So then you become more aggressive because now your land is not working anymore. And fighting continues. And that is what led to the third fleeing now, because the fighting was massive. That also increased with civil conflict, political conflict, the tension for politics and all, that was also part of it. But now in my region, it was overall form of fighting, but environmental issues was the driver first. This side. The other one came and joined, and massive vulnerability happens. So then, when I'm in the settlement, I started knowing that the reality is clear. And that is when I discovered the reality, and no one was taking action. That is when my advocacy started in 2019. That when I said, I need to do something. First, to campaign for peaceful coexistence, because immediately we can't do anything if you're not peaceful. Two, to let them know what is causing this conflict, let them really know. And three, that it is us to forge this way for our togetherness. So that is when I started my advocacy.
Wow. Really interesting.
Yeah, and I use videos to do that, because people are not many. The same way you capture video here is the same way I've been asking people from host communities and from refugee community youth to become characters in the videos, because I wrote the script and I directed it. I was also acting, so I directed, I produced it, and I edited the video. So I brought them together to act, and we do all these things together.
Wow.
That process of film, the cameraman is from host community, another one is from the fun time, people laugh. So that was a very peaceful moment I've ever seen.
Oh my goodness.
People coming together.
Interesting.
Then I realized, this is good. This is good. So the film that we produced, we started screening them in the community. We facilitate, we get projected, we facilitate the film, and we talk to community. You see, what does this part mean? This mean really peace. We need to come together. Then people are like, yeah. So they give questions, they give answers. Perfect way to restore peaceful coexistence was through that video. So when I went to university, that was now, it's like a key. Like we say, education is the key. Education became the key for me to expand everything. My ideas, my passion, and my advocacy.
Wow,
Yeah.
it's amazing. So when I read that you are taking films, I thought that it was more documentary type of filming, but you are producing some story and then make other people to participating in and take part. And through the process, you try to get them try to have some result together, and then you wanted to use that process as well to make peace. Is that right?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
that was really nice. Interesting.
Yeah, that was right. Sometimes you see, I can assure you, refugees are very innovative and very resilient. In the middle of all these struggles that they go through, their minds is actively looking at the realities and seeing what they can do about what's going on. But they are just always have limited challenges. They're limited. I mean, they have simple challenge, which is very clear. Their vulnerability puts them in a situation where they can't implement their ideas. You know, for example, when I see you having cameras like this, you know, we had to move like distance every day, like over 20 kilometers.
Oh my goodness.
You know, 20 kilometers walking. I personally did that through my passions to access camera from an organization to use, and their policies, you use and return it back. So you have to use the whole day walking 20 kilometers to pick it, come back and take it back the next day.
Another 20 kilometers.
Yes, another
goodness.
day. So the challenge starts from you can't afford transport mean to go there. You know, you don't have the money. If you need more money, go and cut trees, sell charcoal, and get some money. But then you're destroying more of the environment. So I feel like I'm a young person, I can walk. So I've been walking like that. But you know, because the time I use for all those things, I can spend to go and bring camera. So through doing that, plus my work, they were also able to trust me with the camera. And then, of course, you see, I would have produced a lot of videos by that time when I had not gone to school. But you see that process of difficulties, accessing equipment. So that became more challenging. But we were acting that videos, but we would also do some of the documentaries as well. You know, I was also doing documentaries to show the story of other people. You know, there's so many education documentaries I've made. During COVID-19, I produced documentary on refugees struggling to make face masks. Making face masks on their own. This face mask was not accessible. You know, struggling to get pens, you know, by children living in child-aided families. So these are the things we are doing. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. So you briefly touched upon the conflicts issue, and you told me about the documentary. Maybe we can go back to the tree planting issue. So I wonder also, where do you live? Where do you live right now? So, because first time I heard that, like, you mentioned about the conflicts in the refugee camp, and there was and then your activities to address those conflicts were not only producing videos but also planting trees. So can you explain about your activities in planting trees and all that stuff?
Yeah, first, Palabek is where I stay. It's Palabek refugee settlement.
Okay.
That refugee settlement is in the northern part of the country.
Sorry to interrupt. So when you say refugees resettlement, is it like a refugee camp that we see from the pictures, or is it like just a place, nothing?
You see, the difference between refugee camp and settlement is refugee camp is people are squeezed without space to cultivate. So like one have a house here, like in this place, all of this space can be a refugee camp because a house here, 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 many, you know, so no space. But refugee settlement, you're given a space here, and then they measure some extra piece of land for you to cultivate some crop.
Okay.
Yeah, so there is extra space for cultivation, you know. So you put your small house, depending on the family size, you put your small house and that's some small space, you know. But of course, in real sense, the space we also get, you cannot produce anything. Like maybe you produce only one crop which is very small, can't feed your family and even one person. So because in Africa you have to cultivate, for example, maize, corn, and then get some other, more food to cultivate, maybe other sources like peas, potatoes, to all take you for the entire year. And we have only one season in Uganda, in that side of where we are staying. So one season, that means you get a crop that make like 3 months or 4, 5, and you harvest it, and that is it, wait for another year. So that is the difference between settlements. So in Palabek, where we are staying, in Uganda mostly there is system of refugee settlement, mostly. There are other places which are camps. And in my second fleeing conflict, we were settled in the camp system. No cultivation, nothing. So right now it is settlement, but always, when people are giving free piece of land, they don't give quality land somehow. They give the one that, because if it is quality one, they would have been using it. They give the one which is not pretty good as such. So that's where we are settled in northern Uganda, which is the part of the country that face like highest rate of drought in the country. That's where we are placed, and the place is not, it's stony, so you can't cultivate well. So that's where we're placed, and that's where I'm based right now, and that is where the Leads organization is based, and that is where we're doing tree planting. And this tree planting, we're just trying to replace now the cut one, giving to every household that at least they should have a shade like this. Because when they're coming, every place is flat. You cut off everything for making your house. So you have to make sure they replace somehow to have shade to sit on, to avoid strong wind from destroying their house. So that is where we're planting. But we also teach them on how to maintain when they're planting. Plus also teaching young people at school so they can have some knowledge on environmental issues, and they also be able to do the same in their families.
Interesting. So, but you said that that's not really a good land, and it doesn't produce a lot. It's not fertile, and if so, like, how do you manage to grow trees properly? Like, don't you need a lot of fertilizers? I mean, usually people think that if you provide more input to the land, the harvest will be better, and it's really about how much input you can put into the soil. But without any additional resources, how do you manage to grow trees properly?
You see, the only mean we keep how we just keep these trees, just watering.
Knowing that
it's nothing like any fertilizer, and I know for sure what kills most of the plants is drought. And if you just planted it, if you don't water it, like keep pouring water, it will definitely dry. So that's the only way we do, because fertilizer is inaccessible. That's very difficult to get. To talk about fertilizer, difficult. So we just pour after digging a hole. We just make them to at least spray water it at least 3 times a day. In the morning, afternoon, and then evening, every day until it grows and the roots catches the ground well until it reaches some stage. It can grow now. That's what constantly they should not. If they forget to put water like on it, it will not survive.
But like, if the drought is an issue, like, how do you manage to find the water?
Water is not very much serious for other purpose, but for drinking purpose, it's and I think, I don't know, maybe people are used to, but I think also that's the reason why people are very sick in the hospitals. Like, children are suffering from diarrhea all the time, typhoid, a lot of things. I think because of a lot of cholera cases, because of unclean water for drinking. Because they drill this water, like borehole water, where so many people like this, lines up to get this water. So a jerrycan can be from the other side up to here. People can be waiting for 6 hours to fetch the same water.
Oh my goodness.
Because the same water point can serve like over 5 to 10,000 people. Same water point.
Wow.
So which is very difficult, but it's accessible for other purpose very well. And then there's some small wells, like the water that flows, some stream, where they can collect water for spraying on the plant.
Okay.
Somehow that can help. But for drinking, it's a difficult
serious
thing,
issue.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So your organization, the lead, can you explain like how you came up with so I guess like how you started. I want to hear about like how you started this organization. You can do it by yourself, but then how did you find people, like-minded people, and what are the main activities? Like you explained before, but can you just briefly explain that again?
Yeah, as I said, in 2019, that is when I started getting involved in community actions, in realizing that I need to step and do something for my community through videos. Because I realized there are very limited platforms to really speak physically, as I was thinking I could, I wanted to, or if I wish I could meet such people. So then I realized, video is there, so I can just make video and share. Let them watch from there. So that's already my voice. So I kept on doing that by mobilizing these youth to come together, and we had a group, we could call it Video Advocacy Group. I just how I call it, and then we started mobilizing them to do this film, whatever. Then in January 2020, I then decided I got scholarship to go to university. So then that group now just ended like that. I left it that way because I was far in the city to study. But then I kept on having the conviction of how can we continue with this. I continue with this program, mobilize the refugees who are also in the universities. Few of them who attended university. So I tell them, can we do community outreach campaigns and we really speak to people, especially in the COVID that has come now. The COVID thing came, but we already had started the community program. So when COVID came, our outreach program was very helpful in ensuring students continue to learn. Other places, education was going on, but in the refugee camp, there was no education due to COVID. So many girls did not return to school, and we had to put in extra effort to make sure they really don't drop. A lot of them don't drop. So we could speak to the community to return girls back to school when school reopened, and to for people to support the learners at home so they continue learning. And then also to use the opportunity to also be planting trees. That was our topic of advocacy. And then I was also the contact point for many humanitarian organizations because they were not operating physically. That is when they realized, so refugee groups can be very effective to do the things in their community. So I formalized our outreach program into like a group again, and then we became contact point. And then in the next months, we started, legalizing our fund information. The next year of 2021, we started saying, let's make this an organization, and we will work on 3 key areas: on environmental conservation, which is climate change, and then on peace building, and then on education. Because these are the 3 core things in refugee lives. These 3 areas makes it very difficult. This is the reason poverty is too high, the 3 areas. So we wanted to make sure refugees are educated to know the actions on the environment and the peace. So they have, equal ground to utilize effectively the resources while managing environment, but also while working for their livelihoods. So continuously from that point, it became refugee-led organization, and currently working on these 3 key thematic areas.
So all from South Sudan?
Yeah, yes, majority of us are from South Sudan, yeah.
And how many people you work with?
We initially were 8 in numbers, and some of which no longer very active because when you do not have funding, someone who got graduated from university cannot fully, work. So some are working in other organizations, but our contribution always come to continuously those through our initiative of talking to people, inspiring them, giving mentorship to learners in school, so they can still come for that. So when we started getting small fundings, we were able to maintain some 5, 6 people who are currently active. The rest are not very, so depending on the capacity that we get.
Wow, amazing. Really interesting. So because as I was listening to your story, it's amazing that how you can relate it to this crisis that you are facing. So you mentioned that these are all connected. The crisis that refugees are facing could be poverty, but also from the environmental degradation and, unpeaceful, unrestful situation in the host community and among the communities themselves, and also lack of education to move forward to tackle the situation. And I really admire your challenge to mingle all these issues to address that. But in Korea, the situation is quite different. And when you hear the term climate change, it's more about the environmental issue. And people are not really able to connect these human rights risks can be it's really interconnected issues, right? But it's hard to imagine how we can connect all these issues. But what would be the good way to relate this climate change issue is the really, really important issue for addressing human rights?
I sometimes wonder, this is a serious surprise sometimes, that a lot of people cannot really connect this very well. It's like telling me when I'm facing conflict like war. So war is just a war issue, it's not human right issue. So we have the right for safety, but then there is war. It's a human right issue. So climate change is definitely a factor. It's a unique factor that will never only affect your other rights, but will affect the other rights, left and side, left and right, all. Because now if you see for this example, let's assume there is no conflict, as I told you for my example. Flooding, there are cattle keepers that stayed in the other side of the countries, and there are farmers that stays in this side of the country. Flooding hits the other side of the cattle keepers. And then they die a lot, and most of the animal dies, and that is their source of livelihoods. So then they run from that place with all their animals to look for a place that doesn't experience flooding. So the place that doesn't experience flooding, unfortunately, is where farming takes place. And there are many people living there doing farming for livelihood. They are not cattle keepers. So when this community comes here, where there are farmers, the other community, they are not wrong to come here because they have nowhere to stay. So, but their coming will destroy these people's source of livelihoods. Now, in that case, what do you expect? People will fight. People fight. And when people fight, people will die. Not just people fighting, but people will die. And in that process, people will not continue in that fighting. People will be displaced. So when people are displaced, how many rights are already denied? Right to safety is already denied. Education is already destroyed. Schools are already destroyed. Right to belonging in your country is already not there. You're no longer in your country. In fact, people who died their life to exist and to being alive is no longer there. They're right. So they're already dead. But also, you are going to be in extreme poverty because you are no longer going to access your food where you used to harvest them from. You have to depend now on the money they call donation to support you. So where is it difficult to connect these things with other aspects of human rights? So I think the context, when we talk about environment, people just need to interpret the context differently and the degree of vulnerability, how severe. So that is why when we call about forced displacement and climate change, that is where severeness of everything is. Someone is already displaced. It's not that I'm getting pollution, but I'm in my house. It's not that I'm seeing, the aesthetic beauties has disappeared, but I'm seeing in my I'm staying in my place. Not that way.
Not like
I
that.
am displaced. Not just displaced and living luxurious life, but starting from zero. From zero. And from zero mean even you don't have food to eat. You don't have clothing. So the human rights comes now when we begin to demand. I would not call it that the human right if it was only my, there are no other people in the world, there are no governments, that is the way of things, life now. I would not call it, but we have the government that should protect the people.
Right.
We have the human rights commissions that should protect the people and that work for the people. So it become the right because right is a right because it should be accorded and given to you. So the world, they are so-called now the global organization that serve the world. If they are there, then vulnerable people hold them. I mean, they hold vulnerable people some service. Like the World Bank, like talk about these big governments, they hold vulnerable people, vulnerable people some service. Because the right of vulnerable people have been denied by lack of management, environmental management, and then managing the conflict of the world. So that was example when there was no conflict. Now let me give you example that there is no environmental issues, but there is conflict. So now assuming these two political parties begins to have disagreement and then they wage war and they go to the bush to fight. The first thing they do is to burn bushes. I've seen this so much. They previously reserved park, places that they said don't burn or something. They burn it completely. And apart from that, they also destroy so many places to stay there. And when they come, they destroy bridges so that people don't move. That is a war, right? Yes, in war, because they don't want these people to pass here, they destroy bridges. And when the water begins to flow, that big water will go and flow and flood an area. And then the trees, they are destroying and burning bushes the other side. Is that not impacting the environment? So there was no environmental issue, but conflict is already impacting. That is on the side of the fighters. But now on the side of the recipients of the troubles, the community. The community will have to leave that place because of conflict, not environment. They will go to a new place, that place that used to host very small population of people and feed that population very well because of the carrying capacity of that environment. So when the huge number of people comes to that area, the number of people have increased, environment has not increased. So this number of people will use natural resources, which is environment, to settle down. They will cut a lot of trees to build their houses. They will, over cultivation of the piece of land will be by many people and at the same time for many years. And when you plant a tree, it takes long for the new one to grow. So lots of it that's been cut. We all know how a tree contributes to stabilizing the climate.
Right.
So initially it was conflict. Hasn't it brought about environmental issues? Why is it very difficult for the world to relate this? And then now when I bring the aspect of education, because it is only in school where so many theoretically and scientifically, I think, proven the best practices that can stabilize our core ecosystems and biodiversity existence, like how we can coexist with different biodiversities. It has been written clearly. So if we go to school, we can learn this. And so many people have gone to school and they have learned this. So are they not being listened to? Or, yeah, so these are the things I normally say. It should be very easy to relate this thing to a lot of things. So that now for displaced people, assuming you are displaced by conflict, there is higher chances, it is not higher chances, it is a must. You will experience environmental crisis every way along your journey. You will.
Oh, yeah.
You will impact the host community horribly. But also, the impact of conflict back in your home will destroy your already existing land you left there.
Right.
So, there's some form of conflict before you move that comes with environmental distractions immediately. So, there is completely no way environmental issues, that environmental issues can be segregated from conflict and violence. And all aspects, when environmental issues now occur, all aspects of our human rights gets affected. Even our health gets affected. Education gets affected the more. And then now poverty continues to escalate. So I see solution in these three fields now when we begin to act. When we act on the environment, we educate more vulnerable people, send them to school, and then we connect peace and make peace exist, sustainable peace. Solution can come, in the refugee context, like vulnerability of refugees can reduce. Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. So easy.
So easy to understand.
So easy to understand.
Yeah.
So, and I guess so if we think about this, after listening to your explanation, it's so easy to interconnect everything together. But so when we say, when you think about the crisis, conflict, of the root cause of the conflicts, it could be also very related as well, because I was reading the article of situation in South Sudan, and I saw that a lot of conflicts over oil industry. So oil industry is the largest industry that you have in South Sudan, and military, they earn a lot of money by operating oil extraction. But oil production is one of the most notorious industry for causing climate change as well. And also I see that it could be also source of the conflicts for the crisis in South Sudan. In that sense, addressing climate crisis could be also linked to resolving the conflicts in South Sudan. So what do you think about this, the root cause of all those problems in South Sudan?
Areas of oil mining in the country have not reached since oil mining started. So I cannot confirm the real environmental impact right now. But I think, in my opinion, it is a threat, because I have experience of how my government struggled to implement a lot of their programs. Of course, we've not been having a serious, roadmap of development recently. But I doubt the capacity of the government to accurately do things that we can rely on. Even managing peace has become a huge problem without intervention of foreign actors. So, election was supposed to take place this year, but a lot of things. A lot of our citizens who are abroad outside and they're trying to invest back in the country are feeling afraid because of this lack of trust in how government is managing everything, which I believe brings my doubt on environmental assessment and management in areas where mining is taking place. So it's something to worry about the future. No wonder in the past we had never had an experience of temperature going beyond to the extent where the government have to close schools because the temperature is so high.
Oh yeah.
We have never experienced that before.
Like how
Last year, around October, I think, 2023, around October, November, around there, schools was closed. All schools were closed from South Sudan because of heat.
So like which degree was it?
It was almost, I think it should be 40 something to 50.
50?
Going to 50 degree.
Are you serious?
There.
50?
Yes. Up to around 40 something to 50. I'm not sure about the exact degree, but it was sometimes go up to 47, 58. I mean 48. It goes up to there.
Wow.
So that should be around 49 up to 50, around there. So it's too hot. So that means that if it reaches up to there, it becomes difficult for children to stay in class.
Exactly.
And in our country, we don't have this, our country doesn't have electricity yet. And so access to this AC and all this, maybe you only find it in the president or whatever, and these big businesses and all that. You can't find it in the community, and light is an issue. So it's difficult for children to stay in school. And I'm wondering whether that is also already an impact of the oil mining kind of influence. A lot of things should be taking place there. Of course, that is also now an impact of the nationwide long years of conflict, which has impacted the environment badly. So to me, I've been outside South Sudan for 8 years now, 8 to 9. But I think a lot of things must be really not good at all. Although naturally nature also have a way of restoring itself if people are not there. For example, many people are not there. So empty lands, maybe the trees could be restoring and growing. But that needs the government intervention to ensure nature restores itself and they support. And as people return, things are set in place, infrastructure is good and all that. But just this year, around 2 months ago, 1 month ago, I just had a bus which was moving from the city coming to Uganda side. It was attacked, and a number of people were killed. So that is still a huge threat that people displaced South Sudanese still here from afar and becomes they lose hope about any return at home. Yeah.
How about you? Maybe we can finish by sharing about your hope. So what's your vision for your activities, and do you have anything, do you have any message you want to say to Korean people?
Yeah. As I said, always I say environmental issues that happen in the other side of the world affect everyone. So it doesn't just affect, like the people destroying the environment only. So educating people about the environment, not to destroy environment, should be action of everyone, and everyone should be involved. But also responding to already existing destruction should be the action of everyone, regardless of where you are. Maybe, for example, Korea has not done a lot in environmental destruction. But you can ask yourself, why is Korea having, is there climate change existing in Korea somehow? Do we have abnormal, unusual change that's happening to our weather? You can ask ourselves, but we have people working in meteorological research. They know more about that. They will be able to prove that climate change actions that happen the other side happens, and the impact shows everywhere. So it should be everyone to be involved. I know for sure countries and governments and companies and institutions, they have capacity to do that. They just need to express the will, and they start doing the work. It should go hand in hand with our daily governance. It should go hand in hand with our daily security financing. We spend for our security financing. We also spend the other side, because we cannot win completely the other side and lose completely here. So let's unify everything and, have a, system of winning equally the other side. So that is strictly for environment. My hope, as you said, as a displaced person, people normally say, what is best for refugees? They keep asking, what really can we do again? Maybe they're funding organizations working for refugees. Yes, that is it now. What else? And then they hear refugees say, we need support or this. And then they ask themselves, what else do really refugees want? But the truth is, to be in the picture of a displaced person, let me clarify this, that even after accessing education like me, it may not be the final thing. The final thing, the most final thing is, for example, if this is my home, that I call it home, and I belong here, and I'm a national of this place. In my ID, it says this and this, I'm a citizen of this, and I stay here, and I vote here, and I have the right all here. That is the destination of every refugee. Durable solutions. And that one to us is, after everything else being done, nobody wants to be a refugee forever. Forever, no. Even if you are super what, as long as you're a refugee, some of the rights you really don't have it. People just say that you have it, but you don't. Durable solution now is 3 options just, and that is belonging. All come to belonging, which is to repatriation, to go back to your country, number 1 there, or to integrate to the host countries where you are a refugee in, or to be resettled to a third country. So you belong. So I don't know why people are worried about taking action to those 3 steps, and it is very bad that we do not know how long a refugee must stay a refugee. And that is hanging in balance. I've always been thinking that can we come together and say a refugee must not remain a refugee after this period of time? There should be a maximum number of years a refugee must be a refugee. We must find durable solution for every refugee. Because in other contexts of many people, someone is a refugee, has produced a child in a refugee, as a refugee, and that child has married and become still a refugee. That child has produced another child as a refugee. Why? So you were born a refugee, you die a refugee. So the rest of your overall life, your rights have been denied. So if one is integrated in a place, can belong and settle. If someone is resettled in third country, can belong and settle. As long as somebody is a refugee, you are always mentally disturbed. You will go through mental health all the time. And that is the reason why they may blame refugees for other actions. It's only passionate refugees that will really need to, can commit, because it is a risk. If you love yourself and love your things so much, you will not do it. For example, I've had many from fellow refugees when I advocate to them to plant trees. Some of them say, no, maybe I will go back tomorrow, maybe next year, maybe. So, but I love trees. If I plant this, I cannot carry, I love it or something. I said, no, it's going to help these people or something. No, but I also love to beautify my place. When you plant your tree, when you grow old, you want to sit under it. I cannot wait to go the other side and plant again. So people are living in confusion to set their homes. So then I was saying, you're right, because really it needs some time, for you to organize your homes and plant yourself trees that take like 10 years to grow or something like that. Right. So I think my hope and my dream is that not just me, but I hope to see the world taking actions in setting a maximum time somebody can be a refugee. And I love to see drastic action being taken by every country, like everyone who's capable to do that, to really look for durable solutions. These other things we talk about are the pathways. Just education is just the formal thing in life, which is should be as a pathway, you know, for durable solutions. It should be, and it should be easier. Education should make it easier for a refugee to have durable solutions. If I'm educated and I have skills, I know a country will benefit from my skill.
Yeah, right.
I will pay tax and I will support
Exactly.
workforce. So it should be not a lot of question for me when I want to get durable solution, you know. So like Korea, it should not be a difficult question because I am productive and helpful to the country, and I will. So education should make it easier.
Easier, right.
And then the elements of my life, my way of life, my respect for diversity, my discipline should be another additional way of life to durable solution.
Right.
So this is why I normally say that everything we do should prepare refugees for durable solution. So 3 preparation: preparing refugees and where they're staying, and then now where they have to go as a final destination for their durable solution. If I have to be integrated in the country I'm staying in, preparing me and the country and that policy to integrate me, and then I choose to be a refugee and I become a citizen. If I have to go back to my country, and all this need to be done at once, like, you know, together, because different refugees will need different durable solutions. So others will need to go back home. So there should be arrangement at home. The UN agencies, the World Bank, international organizations should start holding the government accountable. The government of the countries where we are from. Because there are people that want to return home. So the government should put in place action to welcome people back home. People should stay home. People should return home and exercise their rights and begin to belong. So they should, that is what we need a lot more. And now as the hosting countries here is also, solution is being done to work on policies, even there are refugees that would require not to go back home, not to stay in the hosting country, but they would require resettlement. Like those ones who have, maybe if the hosting countries need skilled refugees, and then those ones who have skills, but also if there are specific cases where they are facing persecutions and they are not safe to stay in the hosting countries and go back home. Or to go back home, but their solution is to go to third country. So all these arrangements should be in place. So they are already, you know, in a short period of time, not very short, you know, I don't know how short it should be or how long it should be, but should not be very long. Because whether you have given me education, I have studied, I have employment, I am skilled, that's not what that's not everything. The final destination is home, belonging, which is these 3. Some people need them, like I know where, mine what I need. So even right now I'm going to school, people say, oh, he's moving to Korea or something. No, my mind is not settled at all. Because, and to young refugees as they grow, to have a family on the move, it's a difficult thing.
Difficult, right.
Maybe you came as a young person, living in a refugee settlement is like life on the move. You are still waiting, you are still moving, you just rested. It's like you're going for a long journey, you're trekking, and then you reach, you know, it's hot, so you rest under a tree. You are yet to go. So that is life in the refugee settlement, refugee camp. It is a resting place to continue going. But now in this case, you don't know where you're going. So regardless whether you've gotten a good drinking water at that resting point, very good shade where you're resting, the fact remains you were moving. You did not come to stay there. Or if you had come to stay there, there is completely no clarity that you will stay there. So that means the only day you'll find your destination is when you confirm that this suitable durable solution for me is here and in this day. And it is possible. That is when you realize, oh, so this is where I was going. But if you don't know that, you don't know where you're going.
Exactly.
We are living we are on the move all the time, mentally. We are not, refugee camp is not home. Refugee settlement is not home. We are always on the move. So my dream is that the world should work out these possibilities for refugees and make sure that even if there is no individual refugee contacted, they should have in the back of their mind that after 10 years, people no longer stay a refugee. So obviously, I will have a solution.
Wow. It's amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's what that's my dream. Yeah, I don't know why it is complex for the world leaders to see this, but
exactly.
yeah.
Because they've never been refugees by themselves.
Yeah.
They don't know.
But
like
some have been. Some have been really. Some have been. We have Kagame, who's the president of Rwanda.
Maybe they forgot what it's like to live as refugees.
You know. I don't know. Maybe, but yeah, it's a unique situation. But that is still on that. Now, the final take that I'm thinking always is the topic of mental health. Now, and that is something that can only be cured by durable solution, because part of its problem is not knowing where you belong, and then facing the daily problem of being questioned about the document you use. Even if you're educated, you may have a PhD as a refugee, you've completed education, but you will never, as a refugee, you will bear the title of a refugee. I worked in Switzerland for some time, and I never opened bank account. I was only using digital bank. I know those digital bank called Wise Bank. I appreciate them. They're very good. They accepted me to open account with them. But the existing bank in the city didn't allow me to open bank account.
Because you didn't have passport.
I know the refugee document that I used to travel, that the government of Switzerland allowed me to enter in the country and work. It's the refugee travel document.
Like bank account is different issue,
but the bank account refused that document. Besides seeing the stamp of the Swiss government, and besides seeing my visa. So this is the problem. So the mental health the mental health challenge that come with that, encountering that situation is something to talk about in another day or sometimes.
Right.
A lot of things.
It's amazing because I didn't really think about like all the difficulties as refugees, because like you were so strong and very convinced to convey your thoughts and sharing the necessary movements that we have to take and actions that we have to take, and that was all very impressive. So I didn't really think about that. Like, you also had very difficult times back in Switzerland, and everywhere you go, it's really hard to live as refugees. But thanks for sharing, and I really appreciate your thoughts and all the works that you do. I think even for me, if I'm not a refugee by myself, but we work closely with lots of refugees coming to Korea, and they're having really difficult times. And sometimes, because of this difficulty, they just lose their mind to take any issues very actively and do something productive. I mean, it's not easy to do something really, meaningful and creative and good for everyone else, because you tend to focus on yourself, being in a difficult situation. But I was really, it was such an inspiring to see how you are reacting to all these difficulties that you are facing, and you don't take that as your personal issue, but you work with others and encourage others to, work on the issue. And I really appreciate that. And I'm sure people who, learn about your story, they will be inspired. And I hope that world leaders, any government policy makers and anyone, it's important for ordinary people to understand that refugees do need home as well, because government policies, they don't make policies that people don't like to have. So I believe that it is really important to have, like-minded people a lot, anywhere, everywhere you go. So I hope that people would understand that the most important thing to welcome refugee is to let them have the places called home. So I hope that like your dream comes true as well, and that we work hard in Korea. That we feel the same way. We hope that Korean government adopt good policy as you suggested, and also like addressing all these issues about climate change and human rights are interconnected, and we have to work together to address all these issues. So thank you so much, and I hope that we keep in touch and we see each other, and we want to encourage your all activities, and hope that world becomes a little bit better. Thanks to your effort and our effort as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to appreciate you too, as you said. In my language, we say terra terra, refugee tech. It's just like refugees are just strong people. They're just resilient. Because can you imagine, like you're working with them, and the severeness of their situation even impact you. You sometimes become emotional and lose your sense. Sometimes, even UNHCR colleague recently died in Lebanon, because of working with displaced. So for me, I always see people who are working with refugees will at some point in life need time for their mental health at some point, especially those ones who are working in protections and the refugee mental health issues, because they go through horrible stories they hear. And they even themselves get affected. So that is the level of severeness of the situation. So for me, I've always been looking also to find, using an opportunity to appreciate everyone working for refugees, whichever level of work. From down other side of the world and the other angle, like we are beside the wall watching you do the work, and we can't we can't clap loud enough, but we're extremely impressed and so happy about every single improvement we see every day. We give applause to the people working for UNHCR, like the people leading UNHCR, like Filippo Grandi, different UN agencies, different people working for refugees, like lawyers advocating for refugees, because refugees have to do that themselves. But there are people who are not refugees doing that. That's really very impressive and amazing. And for me, I appreciate and I say thank you so much for the opportunity. And this kind of media work you're doing is amplifying our voices and making us tell clearly what is on ground and what exactly we need, And through this listening, the world now has produced what we call localization agenda, which is even now bringing the implementation down to refugees to do implementation themselves, and that makes things sustainable. So I appreciate them a lot, people working on the front line supporting refugees.
Thank you so much. That must be real encouragement for everyone. Thank you so much.
For the cameraman.
He's a lawyer. It's one of the most famous lawyers for the refugee.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And to all the camera
this
people.
must be real encouragement for him as well.
Maybe my story also kind of touched them in a way or something, but that's what they go through. But still, I appreciate you all, the camera people, for doing the great thing. Coming behind the camera, seeing. Listening to sad stories sometimes makes you go through a lot too, but that's a resilience that you also carry along to make sure you stand with the people that are displaced. My appreciation to you all.
Thank you so much. She's also a lawyer. She's an intern researcher. They are not really like a professional cameraman, but like we are doing this to share your story without that. We are very excited to hear that you are coming, and we have to have you for our YouTube, and it's a unique opportunity. So thank you so much. I'm really, I feel like this is like one of the moments that I was really touched, it's really, you're a strong person. Very impressive.